Editor of Grantland, Chris Ryan with Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team. Chris is one of our faves to have on talking NBA, and has there ever been a better day to do it? And Chris, I was checking out your Twitter earlier, at Chris Ryan 77. Cleveland lost, obviously, in 6 games last night, the NBA Finals. Why is this a good outcome for the Cavaliers?
Okay, so hear me out. The Cavs were not built necessarily to win it this year. They certainly wanted to try, but once those guys started going down, once you lost Love, once you lose Kyrie, I think they're playing with house money. To get to the 6th game against one of the best regular season teams we've seen since Jordan Bulls, and then to lose in a very heroic, admirable way with dignity, that sets them up perfectly to indicate to Kevin Love, who has a player option for this coming summer, that this is the team you want to be on if you want to win a title. Right? Now, the Cavs, their cap space is such that basically they need to resign the guys that they have and the guys who have player options, the guys who are restricted free agents like Tristan, Iman, JR. They don't have the money to go out and get a Chris Middleton or a Greg Monroe or any of these kind of nice free agents out there. What they have to do is keep this team intact, re-sign Love, and keep going forward. And I have a feeling like if they had gotten swept by the Warriors, if they had lost to the Hawks in some capacity, that you probably would have seen some more recriminations going on in Cleveland right now. But as it stands, if you're a Cleveland fan, LeBron almost won you a title with some guys who maybe, could have been in the D-League if some things had broken the wrong way. And now they're going to get back possibly one of the best point guards in the league and one of the best shooting big men in the league. I just think that the future is very bright for Cleveland.
Chris Ryan of Grantland with Armen and Levack on the team. And Chris, you know what? I feel like you need to have a conference and talk to the fans of Cleveland today, because we've talked to multiple individuals who were at that game last night, and everybody says those fans are so down right now. I think you need to have a positive motivation session with everyone in the city of Cleveland, because right now it's all about how their hearts continue to get broken since the 60s.
I know, but think about, okay, so if we're talking about the Chicago Cavs or the San Antonio Cavs or even the Milwaukee Cavs or the Philadelphia Cavs, this is not an apocalyptic event. We're really only talking about this because Cleveland has this perception, and we have this perception of Cleveland, that they're doomed or that they're somehow cursed. But this was not dropping the ball on the touchdown on the goal line. This was they came very close. They have the best player in the world, and they're about to get back 2 of the top 20 NBA players. They're going to be fine. They're going to be in the mix. There's no one else in the East who can compete with them.
Well, who would you find it more likely to return to the finals next year, the Cavs or the Warriors?
The Cavs.
Really? Even though the Warriors
100%. Because the Warriors are going to have to face a retool. They're going to have to face theoretically, if all things being equal, they're going to have to go through a healthy Oklahoma next year.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so the Cavs, the way they are right now, how much different is this team going to look in 1 year?
Well, I think that you'll probably see largely the same team. I think that they bring back Iman. I think that they bring back Tristan, whose agent is also LeBron's agent and friend, Rich Paul, as we know. I think that, they could try and do some stuff like what Doc's doing with the Clippers, where you're trying to turn 2 nickels into 15 cents, But for the most part, these guys are going to hope that their luck with health is better next season, and they're going to come back with Love and Kyrie. I think you're going to see that same free-flowing, highly potent offense. Guys, when they played Tristan, Love, Kyrie, LeBron, and I believe JR, they were probably the best starting. That was the best 5-man unit in the league this year, I think. So I think that they have, as long as they can bring everybody back, and as long as everybody's on the same page, because they had some problems with that with Love earlier in the season, and it's by no means a guarantee Love's going to stay. I think that they're going to be back in the finals next year.
Wow. Okay, so the roster will be roughly the same or mostly the same. Who's the coach?
I think it's Blatt. I don't think you can get rid of a guy unless, and then Zach Lowe has written about this and talked about this. People have talked about this. Unless LeBron, who also has a player option for next year, and he will likely be opting out and likely be signing some sort of short-term deal that allows him to then make the maximum amount of money when the cap goes up, right? I think that unless LeBron was for some reason it's me or Blatt comes back. I don't see how you can get rid of a guy who gets you within 2 games of an NBA championship, to say nothing of the fact that Blatt went through Brad Stevens, Tom Thibodeau, and the coach of the year, Mike Budenholzer from Atlanta. So it's not like he got his pants pulled down out there.
Chris Ryan, editor of Grantland with Armen Levack, 104.5 The Team. But Blatt was there before LeBron. And Stephen A. Smith said this morning right here on 104.5 The Team that if LeBron doesn't stick up for Blatt, the silence is deadly. And the silence tells you that LeBron does not want Blatt back. That would be enough for Blatt's exit, correct? If LeBron said, I got somebody.
You know, I do agree with that. I do think that ultimately Blatt, as every Cavs coach, serves at the pleasure of LeBron. Mike Brown found that out. David Blatt's going to find out soon enough, one way or the other, how LeBron feels about his coaching. There was rumors earlier in the season when things weren't going very well that the Cavs were much more in tune with what the lead assistant Tyronn Lue, who used to play for the Lakers, had to say. Most people say that Lue, or at least for a while, Lue is getting a lot of credit as the defensive architect for the Cavs. That talk kind of died down. I don't know if that was like the Cavs kind of messaging that this was Blatt's team, or whether this truly was all the adjustments that they made over the course of the postseason were Blatt's. But I think that you guys are right, and Stephen A. Smith is right. If you don't hear anything from LeBron co-signing Blatt by, say, July 4th, I would start to raise an eyebrow.
It sounds crazy that David Blatt brought this team to the finals and he could get fired, but you can simplify it by saying that the best player in the world might want another guy being his coach. It could be that simple, right?
And there's one guy out there who LeBron has some experience with, who is thought of as one of the great minds in the NBA, who does not have a job, and that's Tom Thibodeau.
That makes sense to you, that combo.
LeBron has played for Tibbs on Team USA. Tibbs, I mean, look, Tibbs is no charmer, and if LeBron is worried about his minutes and his usage and his taking care of his body, I don't know if Tibbs is the right choice there. But if you want a guy who would pretty much maintain, if not raise the level of play of every single player on that team, the only guy I can think of who's a free agent coach to come in there and do that is Tibbs.
Now, here's the other crazy. I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on, Chris, okay? What about Calipari?
I think he had that chance a couple of years ago. And I think that, honestly, if Cal's going to leave Kentucky, it has to be for one of the marquee franchises of the league again. And I think that would be the Lakers or the Knicks. You know, I don't think Cal leaves Kentucky to coach in a short-term situation in Cleveland. I think he would leave Kentucky to get a lot of control of a huge franchise like Los Angeles.
Chris Ryan, editor of Grantland. Damn, he's good. On Twitter, at Chris Ryan77. And Chris, here we are. We're well into this interview. We've talked all about the Cavaliers.
I know, we haven't talked about the Dubs, man. What's going on?
You know, we opened the show today saying, I opened the show saying, LeBron won last night. How great. Wait, LeBron didn't win? Because everybody's talking about LeBron. Everybody's talking about the Cavs. Is it unfair that we overshadow this Warriors victory with LeBron leading the headlines and the Cavs leading the headlines?
I think it has something to do with this is what the Warriors were supposed to do. You don't win 67 games and then get credit for winning the finals. I think it's what we expect from you. But like we were just talking about off air, it's kind of crazy. If I had come up to you guys 2 years ago with Steph's bad ankles and Klay Thompson's iffy play and Harrison Barnes seemingly being like a borderline NBA player, and I told you these guys are going to win 67 games and storm through the NBA playoffs in 2 years, well, you probably would have hung up on me. So the idea that they could do it, and that they could do it by at any given moment completely changing the five guys they're playing. I mean, Iguodala was a bench player. Bogut played 3 minutes over the last 3 games of the finals. It really is a remarkable thing. I just think that our reaction is somewhat tempered by the fact that this was sort of what we expected from the Warriors going into this postseason. And also, I don't know about you guys, but whenever a team wins a title on a visiting floor, it kind of saps it for me a little bit. You don't have that ecstasy of knowing that building is just, the roof is going off.
Before we came on today, Mike Lupica right here on the team said he didn't put them as an all-time great because they didn't have to go through the Spurs. They didn't have to go through the Clippers. Love and Irving were not there. Does that also take away from what the Warriors have accomplished? I
don't know. Can you guys remember who the Bulls played in 95 or 96? I mean, I just know that they won. I think in 10 years that's what we'll care about. If the Warriors continue to play at this high level, I think that we'll think of them as one of the great teams of the last 30 years. But I mean, this is the same thing people talk about with injuries and about the what ifs with injuries, and what if Parker's ankle had been okay against the Clippers, and what if Durant's foot had been all right and the Thunder had snuck in and played the Warriors in the first round. Who knows? These kinds of footnotes we never look back on. We only look back on the trophies, and that's just I can't remember a single team that the Bulls played in the playoffs against in the 90s. I just remember them winning the titles.
Chris Ryan, editor of Grantland. Steve Kerr, first rookie NBA head coach to ever win a title. Should we look at him and think that he is a future great head coach in this NBA, in this league?
I mean, by all accounts, yes. Honestly, yes. It's interesting to see guys like Kerr, guys like Brad Stevens, who are bringing. I think the word I would use is just a different feel to the game. I don't think that they're necessarily doing anything that's never been done before, but you get the feeling like those guys are calm and they create a really happy work environment, and that they listen to their staff and they make people feel included, and that there's not like, hey, you guys go out and run 30 suicides because somebody missed an offensive rebound. I'm sure that they work really, really hard, but I think they work hard because they like working. And you see sort of this change of the guard in NBA coaching now, where there aren't as many taskmasters and there aren't as many drill sergeants. And it's more guys like Kerr who can relate to the players, who can incentivize the kind of sacrifices that these guys have to make. I mean, think about David Lee. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, he's an all-star. Now he's a bit player, but he got a ring, and that's something he's going to remember forever. And that's because of Kerr.
So here in New York land, one of the biggest things is the what if Kerr had come here. Do you think he could have made a difference even with this terrible Knicks roster?
I mean, I think that you have to imagine that this terrible Knicks roster would have hung on to some of their pieces, whether, I can't remember the timeline, but whether they would try to bring back Tyson Chandler or whether they hung on to J.R. or Iman or done a trade with those guys that got them back a more valuable piece. I think Kerr would have made them maybe a lower-tier playoff team, maybe. I don't think that he would have gotten them much farther than that, though. I mean, he's not a wizard,
Right. He's not Jesus. He can't work miracles.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that there's only so much. I think Fisher was exceptionally bad in his first season, but I don't think Kerr could have done a tremendously amount better.
Why was Fisher bad? What mistakes did he make?
I just think he was. I think that he didn't show the kind of flexibility that Kerr did over the course of the season. That idea, and honestly, the kind of flexibility that Blatt did, to give him some credit. The idea that you're working with the pieces you have. I mean, they stuck with that triangle, and they stuck with trying to implement the way that Phil wants them to play, way past the point of when they could remain competitive this season. And that's fine. There's thousands of fans out there who are cheering for NBA teams who are just trying to figure it out right now instead of playing. But yeah, I just think that Fisher didn't show the kind of adaptability that I think the modern NBA coach needs.
Is that not just being a rookie, Chris, a rookie head coach? I mean, Kerr had the TV, the management, the experience.
Yeah, I mean, and Brad Stevens coached to 2 national title games, and there's plenty of examples of guys coming in the league, but they have more experience than Fisher. Look, the New York Knicks is one of the marquee franchises of the NBA. There's going to be pretty high standards. That's all I got to say. I mean, Brett Brown can go lose 50 games a year in Philadelphia, for the next two more years and probably stay employed. Fisher can't. I mean, the Post, the Daily News, the Internet, there's just too much scrutiny in New York for you to serve that up.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't digging deeper and maybe giving us a reason as to why we should be alarmed about Fisher long term.
Well, no, I don't think that's fair, because I don't think. I mean, that same, you could ask those same questions of the coach in. The coach in Philly.
Okay.
I think you have to give Fisher the tools to win, and if he can't win with those tools, then you have to question his ability.
Chris Ryan, at Chris Ryan 77, editor of Grantland. Who are the Knicks picking with the 4th pick next Thursday?
I have a feeling they're going to trade out of it, guys.
Okay,
I think that the
terrible.
guys, unless Okafor drops, which is what we've been sort of hearing a little bit about. People falling in love with Porzingis, people falling in love with Moutier, D'Angelo Russell maybe moving up to 2 with L.A. If Okafor drops to New York, they're definitely taking him. Phil loves a big man. That's a marquee talent to build the low post around. The triangle runs in and out of the post. I think he would be very useful for them. If those guys are gone, I don't think that Phil can draft projects like Porzingis or Moutier, although Porzingis, by all accounts, is ready to go. I wouldn't be surprised to see him trade out and try and get some useful, proven NBA players with that 4th pick.
So who would be the dance partners on this trade?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. There's lots of teams who would like to buy in to that area who are stuck in the sort of mid tier there. Whether it's in Indiana, whether it's maybe a Milwaukee. I don't know. It's tough to say right now because everybody is in a state of, I think, probably like addressing what they've got versus what they just saw happen with the Warriors and thinking about, well, we need more depth. We can't just put all of it in on 3 players and hope that the 4 through 8 to 9 guys are going to be good enough at the end of the season. The Warriors, the Spurs, they've proven you need to distribute the wealth really well. And that wouldn't be a bad idea for something for Phil to consider, is that the Knicks can get a lot farther just by getting better from Carmelo down. You don't necessarily need to add to the top. Of course, they're going to need another blue chip player soon, but just being competent from their 2 to 10 spots on the roster would be a big upgrade.
So, Chris, if they trade out, they get 2 picks in exchange. They get a late first.
I think they would
second.
look for like a couple of picks, or they would look for some really useful players. I don't know whether that. You just keep hearing all these rumors about what they're going to do. I also wouldn't be surprised if Phil does want to put his stamp on this draft and does want to show that he's a good GM and doesn't want to trade out. But it really is going to depend on who falls to 4.
Right, because if it's a stretch, that's not a good GM move. I gotcha. Chris Ryan, editor of Grantland, at Chris Ryan 77. Chris, you're the best, man. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks so much, guys.